The Ahsoka Season Finale left our heroes stuck in the New Galaxy, and fans have been wondering just how they'll return home to face Thrawn and the returning Empire. Well, brace yourselves to this, because the clues are there that they won't be returning home at all.
Where a Ronin such as you belongs.
Now, this isn't gonna sit well with everyone.
We have to prepare for the worst.
Let's start off by getting into why Ahsoka won't be returning home, how the Mandalorian timeline stories look to be splitting into two, and where this is all ultimately leading to. Because myself and many other fans out there strongly believe that Dave Filoni was setting up far more than just the heir to the Empire story in this season of Ahsoka. But before we get into that, we first need to talk about Ahsoka's situation on Peridea, which was an unexpected one to say the least. Now, Ahsoka's entire focus this season was to prevent Grand Admiral Thrawn's return to the main galaxy, whilst on the other hand her Padawan Sabine was primarily focused on finding Ezra after over a decade of him being missing. Now, it was always going to be incredibly difficult to achieve both of these objectives, and ultimately Ahsoka's goal to prevent Thrawn failed. However, they did succeed in finding Ezra Bridger, but weirdly enough, after spending 8 episodes to get to this point, it resulted in the characters effectively swapping around, with Ezra going back to the main galaxy, Sabine, Ahsoka and Huyang remaining in the new one. Now, with the threat of Grand Admiral Thrawn return now a reality, and he's come with powerful allies in the form of the Great Mothers, they together will become formidable opponents to a largely sleeping New Republic. And I'm absolutely convinced that even though Ezra's physically returned to the main galaxy and they can see him in the flesh, it still won't be enough to wake up the majority of the senators. Now, Ezra's return home does go a bit of the way in balancing the scales a little bit so that it's not so one-sided towards the bad guys, but they still do have the upper hand for sure. Now, with Ahsoka, Sabine and Huyang, who remain on Peridea alongside Baylan and Shin, although they're there separately, you have to wonder, why would they just do a straight swap with these characters? Ezra returning home and the others not. Are they literally planning to do a second season and make it a repeat of season 1? Instead, this time it's Ezra trying to get onto Peridea to rescue him? I highly doubt that's the direction Dave Filoni is going to take the next time out. And we already know that Filoni's movie in 2026 is said to be a live-action retelling of Heir to the Empire. And let's not forget, originally it was Luke, Han and Leia that went up against Grand Admiral Thrawn in them books. The general consensus was, and still largely is, that it's going to be the Rebels characters that take on Thrawn in this live-action retelling. But there is one problem. If the Rebels characters go up against Thrawn, where are they during the sequel trilogy? And this is a problem that Filoni has always faced throughout his Star Wars career. No matter the story, there's always been a beginning and an end in place, and he's effectively been filling in the middle, be it in the Clone Wars, Rebels, or even now during the Mandalorian timeline. Now, to prevent himself being boxed in with these characters he's created, he's written their stories in such a way up until now that puts them largely out of these big galactic events where their fates are pretty much sealed, such as Ahsoka leaving the Jedi Order right before Order 66, making it a much more survivable experience for her. And it does seem like this is what he could be doing again. With Ezra returning home, he leaves Ahsoka, Sabine and Huyang on Peridea with no clear way to return themselves. We see Ezra go back to unite with Hera, and he's likely going to go on to become a core group of the characters that stand up against Thrawn and the returning Empire. He'll be there alongside the likes of Mon Mothma, although he'll likely take a more physical approach rather than a political one, a little bit like Hera. But even with Ezra back in the fold, it's still going to leave the good guys at a huge disadvantage against Thrawn and the Empire. We know Thrawn's already going to pull together the surviving Imperial remnants, whilst also potentially having fallen stormtroopers that have died in the past brought back to life alongside undead Night Sisters, thanks to the magic of the Great Mothers. This still leaves room for other characters to appear though, and we know that this is a Mandalorian timeline movie, so you can count on Din and Grogu being a part of it, probably even Boba Fett as well, and possibly Bo-Katan and the other Mandalorians. But I believe, and there has been rumours of this actually happening, that Luke and Han are also going to appear in this movie, which we know is possible because they have all been de-aged or brought back thanks to technology. We had Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones 5 and we've had Luke in the Book of Boba Fett. However, it's exactly this that some fans aren't happy with, and for a couple of reasons, such as the de-aging done on these characters isn't at a point where it's good enough to really be used in a movie, and that they should simply move on and focus on new, different characters rather than reusing the old. Now, whilst I totally understand the concerns around the de-aging, I will point to the progress made with Luke from Mando Season 2 to the Book of Boba Fett, which was achieved in a span of less than 12 months, and in my opinion, Harrison Ford in Indiana 5 was actually better than Luke was in the Book of Boba. And in terms of reusing the legacy characters, it's expected fans won't wholeheartedly be behind that idea, given the way many fans felt they were handled and used in the sequel trilogy. But if there's one person at Lucasfilm I believe would do them characters justice, it would be Dave Filoni. And even though one particular character he's got experience with now wasn't a part of the original movies, well, he kind of was but wasn't, he did a fantastic job of the way he handled the character of Anakin Skywalker in Ahsoka, which comes with similar expectations. But what's more, a lot of fans have said they believe Anakin's portrayal by Hayden Christensen in Ahsoka is his best yet, and some of that praise should be passed on to Dave Filoni for the manner in which he wrote the character into the show. So Dave Filoni could be sticking closer to a true live-action retelling of Heir to the Empire, focusing on the original trilogy characters alongside some new additions such as Din and Grogu, whilst Ahsoka, on the other hand, whose fate isn't yet confirmed, completely avoids this conflict altogether by dealing with the threat over on Peridea. And the threat on Peridea could actually be a greater danger to the galaxy and the overall universe. It's this same threat that was likely powerful enough to cause the Great Mothers to flee their homeworlds, and it's also likely the same power that Baylan could feel what he felt calling to him, which then resulted in him abandoning his initial mission with Thrawn and his apprentice Shin, which was completely out of character. So there's definitely something more to this. Now, Ahsoka's side of the story could focus more on the Force itself, the cosmic force, with the statues of the Mortis gods being seen on Peridea. It kind of backs up that theory, and a really popular one at the moment is that the power calling to Baylan and likely what the Great Mothers were fleeing was actually Abeloth, which if you want to know more about, check out this video here, you'll find it on the channel, or wait until the end of this video where a link will appear and you can click on it and watch it. Now, Ahsoka could focus more on the Celestials and the greater Force elements that come with that are far more dangerous, as mentioned, to the universe, not just the galaxy. With the planet of Peridea being unusually connected to the Force, perhaps this part of the story could focus heavily on Ahsoka and Sabine, but could also include an active role for Anakin Skywalker. One side of the story being told here could very much be the heir to the Empire, whilst the other one could dive much deeper into the cosmic force itself. With Ahsoka being away from the galaxy at the end of Season 1 with no obvious way to get back home, rather than repeating the mission in Season 2, Filoni has left these characters there for a reason. Also, why else would he focus in the way he has on Baylan and Shin and the power calling to him, only for it to never be explored? But also, going down this route solves the problem of these characters not returning within the sequel trilogy, and effectively bringing a whole new galaxy to Star Wars wipes the slate clean for any future storytelling without conflicting or bumping into any of the existing canon. I personally really like the idea, rather than having a couple more Disney Plus shows in this timeline and wrapping it up with a movie at the end. It still delivers on the promise of the movie being fantastic, whilst also turning over a new page in the book for a whole new bunch of stories to come. Guys, let me know in the comments, do you think Ahsoka's destined to stay in this new galaxy now? Remember to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll catch you in the next one. May the Force be with you.